there, my name's Carlo and welcome to another exciting quick tutorial. This tutorial is based around Maya, and what we're going to be looking at is camera work, how I use the camera in Maya 2015, and also more importantly rendering. I've seen quite a few videos in the past on YouTube about rendering, and specifically people trying to render in AVI or QuickTime format, should I say. And obviously this is just a quick tutorial to show you guys the best way to set everything up. Obviously, you know, getting your camera looking good, and also rendering in general, because a lot of people think that the best way, you know, to create a movie or an animation within Maya is to render in an AVI format or QuickTime format, which is wrong. Basically, the function's there, but you know, you just don't do it. You just don't render in QuickTime or AVI, and the reason is obviously, one, it takes a lot longer to do. Two, obviously, you know, say for instance you're rendering quite a big file, you know, take you a few hours to render that file. If anything goes wrong or your computer crashes, that's it, you lose your work, you lose everything. So I'm just going to show you the way I would do it, and I hope this helps you guys out. So as you can see, this is a model I've been working on of a bridge. I've got my camera in place here. I've just literally placed the camera into the scene, and if you don't know how to do it, obviously go to create cameras, and I usually use camera and aim, because then it specifically aims straight at the object that I'm filming. And then basically what I can do after that is place the object or place the camera in the scene anyway, or anywhere I see fit. Now, there is a few ways to move the camera. Obviously, you've got the camera itself, which is obviously got the movements, up, down, left, right, forward, which is your Y, X and Z axis. But what I like to do is place the camera in a point, and then obviously if you select the line of sight, which is here, what this allows you, it gives you more of a free movement of the camera, so you can basically go where you want with that camera. Okay, so what we're going to do is, obviously I'm just going to select my camera, and once I select my camera, obviously all my settings appear. The film gate is set to user at the moment, so what I'm going to do is select 16mm theatrical, shall I say, and that will adjust my lens to the way I want it. So then I'm going to select my line, which will give me my pivot point here, and then I'm just going to basically place the line of sight. I'm going to bring it down and place the line of sight where I want it. So basically what I want the camera is just to pan over here across the bridge like so. Okay, so I'm just going to try and get that to work. But also you can animate this sequence, and you can animate the camera sort of moving, which I'll try and show you now. Okay, so at the moment I've got 1 to 120 keyframes. So first of all, I'm going to select my keyframe, and then I'm just going to hit S on the keyboard to place my first keyframe. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag my keyframe monitor all the way to the end for the length of my video, and then all I'm going to do is I'm literally going to move my camera where I want it to go. So I basically want it to go bosh like that, and then I'm going to hit key on the keyboard, S on the keyboard, to place my final keyframe. So once we go back, as you can see, my camera is moving with the keyframe quite nicely. Okay, so now I want to do a second bit of animation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at about 5 seconds into the animation. Actually, I'm going to start at 75 frames, because what I want the camera to do from that point is just basically go up. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another keyframe in. I'm going to drag my timeline bar to the end. I'm going to select my camera, and I'm just going to oh, select the right thing, elevate my camera up like so, and then once I've finished, hit S on the keyboard again, and that should, in theory, give me a nice panoramic sort of movement and make my look a lot better, as you can see. So it's going to be literally videoing through these bars like so. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so once that's done, obviously it's time to render. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure this is set to rendering, and we're basically going to hit this little touch here, which will open up our render settings, and we're going to open that up just a bit. Okay, and these are basically all our simple settings for our rendering. Now this is where you want. Now if you look, by default my if file is obviously a picture format, and that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for image sequence. Guys, seriously, forget all this QuickTime Movie, forget all this AVI, because one, it's not the way to export a Maya animation, because most, you know, obviously after you've finished your render, yeah, you want to take it over into a compositing program like Nuke, okay, or maybe Smoke or After Effects, and most of these programs will not accept the file formats like QuickTime and stuff like that. You know, especially Nuke won't accept it, and Smoke, obviously, you know, you can't do a lot with Smoke, compositing with Smoke once it's done. But once you get a image sequence done, you've got a lot more options, guys, a lot more options to play around with the actual set piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select image sequence. Here it says single frame. I'm going to go down to name hashtag.exe. I'm going to select that. Make sure my padding is set to 4 by default. And if you look here, it's obviously got start frame and end frame. Now that's basically 10,000 is 10 frames. Okay, this is how they work it out. So obviously we'll go from 0 to 120. So basically it's 120 frames, so we're going to go 120 and it'll give you 120,000 like so. Now next bit is we obviously want to set our quality. So I always work in 1080p, so I'll select 1080p from that. Okay, so once that's all done and it's all set up, you can close that, come up to render, and then batch render. Now what will happen is this will basically start the render sequence for you. So because this is a bit of a lengthy process, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to pause the video, and once it's rendered, we're going to literally go back to it, and I'll show you how to export it into what happens when you export it into After Effects or Premiere Pro. So I'll be back in a second. There's one thing I did forget to, I had to stop that render then for a second because I feel like a right penis. Go back into settings. Obviously we've got to select our camera, so by default it's set to perspective, so we're going to select camera 1, which is our main camera that we're going to be rendering from. So after that's done, obviously we can, what we're going to do is we're going to come down to render, batch render, like so, and obviously that might start doing the job properly then for us. And the way we can actually see that is if we open up our Finder, go into our Documents, Maya, Projects, Default, and Images. Hopefully it would have started rendering out for us. As you can see, it's all started rendering for us. So let's just check the, oh, that's a bit large, show view options, and let's arrange by name. Okay, this should start rendering for us now. under camera 1. Okay, that's just rendering now. Okay, so once this is rendered, we'll be right back. So that's finished doing its animation. As you can see, right when it's finished, it says results rendering complete. See console for information, blah blah blah. So obviously it's not the best animation work in the world, as I've only got one directional light set up. Normally for a scene like this you'd have literally, I reckon, between about 50 to 60 lights on the set, but obviously I've just literally built this rig, so I've not finished the lighting on it yet, so I'm just using it basically to show you how to render out your work. Okay, so once this is done, obviously you can quit Maya. You can save it if you want, but for this instance I'm not going to save it because obviously I don't want this to be part of my project, this camera work, so I'm not going to save it. So what we're going to do is wait for this to close. Maya always takes a long time on my Mac to close for some reason, and we're going to open up After Effects. When you're using Premiere Pro as well, obviously it's the same sort of concept as Premiere Pro, so what I mean is adding your files to your composition. Okay, so we're going to go to File, Import, File, and then we're going to go to where our project's held. So in my case it will always be in my projects folder with Maya, or as a default it will save every project to your images. So as you can see, it's saved the whole sequence in a JPEG sequence. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to click on the first one, and automatically JPEG sequence will be selected, and then all I'm going to do is click on open. Now what that's done is that's compressed everything, put it together so it's ready to go into a comp. So obviously when we render this out, as you can see, the animation moves, but obviously my lighting's crap, so obviously the animation's going to be crap. So as you can see, the animation plays flawlessly. Now this is where, once you've finished, say for instance once you've finished your scene, then you can import it into a movie scene. That's if your your project's finished. But if you want to import it, say for instance into Nuke for compositing, then obviously you wouldn't. You'd keep the JPEG sequence the same, because once you open up Nuke and drag your folder, what you'd do is you'd create a folder. Let me just show you to make things easier. Let me just show you. Right, so let's quit out of After Effects. Right, so say for instance you've got Nuke here, right? And you've got your, what you do is you create a new folder, right? Name it, say whatever you want. Just name this. Let's keep it, call it Untitled folder for now. I'm going to go to my documents. Always make a folder because Nuke likes folders. Maya, projects, default, images. Then obviously I've not put this into a folder, so I'm just going to highlight all 128 frames. If this was in a folder already, you'd be alright. Put it into this folder, and then when I grab this folder and drop it into Nuke, automatically it reads it as a sequence. Bosh. Then you'll be ready to do your compositing work. So that's basically it really. That's how you render properly with Maya, obviously to use for After Effects, Nuke or Premiere Pro. Then what you would do is then you would export it once your project is finished, export it into a movie once the whole project's finished. So I hope this has helped and I haven't rambled too much. I'm very tired, and as you can see, it's 11:30 at night, but obviously I wanted to get this tutorial done, just to help you guys out. So thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.